So today I'm going to find the worst rated samples on Splice, the ones that nobody wants to use, and try to make a track that sounds good. So here's the game plan. For every sound I want in the track, I have to go into Splice and type it in. So like I'll start with a melody, and then I'm sorting it by most popular. For this one, I kind of want to make it a house track, so I'm still going to put in 110 to 130 is the range. But you can't sort by least popular on Splice, so what I have to do is go down here and keep going until I hit the last page. So I have to keep scrolling down until I get to the last page. So we've made it to page 100, which is the farthest they'll let me go. So these are going to be the least popular melodies on all of Splice. Let's check them out. So what I'm going to do as a rule is I'm going to be able to use any sample I want from just the last page of results. So for everything I type in, I'm going to go to the last page and pick one of the samples from the last page. These are pretty bad. This might be harder than I thought. You know what I should do? Whatever I end up making at the end of this video, I'll just cut to it right now so you can hear whatever I come up with before I know what it sounds like. So hopefully that sounded good. I have no idea how I'm gonna get from these terrible sounds to something that sounds good. There's still some cool samples in here, like that one's pretty cool. Nah. I might have gotten saved by this first result on the last page here. I think I might be able to do something cool with this. Let's try it out. So I think I've got a cool overall idea. So I want those strings to be like really legato and smooth in the build-up. And in the drop, they can be really choppy with maybe like a rolling bass line underneath. I don't know, let's add a bass to it and see if it sounds cool. So I'm gonna type in bass one shot so I can sample whatever bass sound it is. And I have to do the same thing where I have to manually go all the way to the last page, but I won't make you guys watch this, so I'll just fast forward through it. So we made it to the 100th page of the bass one shots. Let's hope they don't sound too bad. I'm looking for like a really plucky bass I can sample and turn into like a rolling bass line. That's just not a bass at all. Why are these all like weird dubstep hits? Oh my god, none of these are usable except maybe that one. Alright, I guess I'm gonna have to use this one. So with the help of a couple plugins, I was able to make the bass line sound a little better. So I want to wait a little bit to add drums. I think we need to add some more melodic elements and get the full idea for the track going. So I just typed in vocal, but I think I'm going to click ambient to try to get the sound I'm looking for. So we made it to the 100th page of ambient vocal sounds. Let's see what we got. So I found two that I think could be semi-usable. I'm just going to drag those two in. Let's see if we can get both these in key. So I'm just going to loop this and add a ton of reverb. So now we've got this atmospheric vocal bed. Then I'm just going to copy that same filter I have on the strings onto that. Just adds a subtle layer in the background there. Maybe we can find an actual vocal to use for the breakdown. I am going to put the BPM in a range just so it's usable. So I'll do like 110 to 140. I'll hit vocals. And then I do have to make it minor so it's in the same key even if I have to change the pitch. So this time we only made it back 91 pages before the samples ended.
You know you want me.
Nah. What the hell is that?
You in my hut now, my hut.
Alright, let's just come back to the vocals later because nothing is sounding good. So I just typed in brass stabs and made it to the last page, and I actually found this brass sample that's pretty good. It's pretty clean at least, so we can sample it. I don't know if we'll end up using that brass stab, but it's good to have that just in the project. I want to start adding drums now, which I'm a little nervous about because these drum samples might be awful. But let's see if we can process them to make them sound tighter and cleaner. So first I'll go with a kick. So we made it to page 100. That's not bad. So I think my favorites are this one and this one. This one actually has a good shape to it. I could definitely use that. So after some processing, the kick is sounding a lot better. Got some EQ on it. Then I shortened it. Then I have this transient designer just making the high end pop out. If I was using a good kick sample, I should barely need to do any processing at all. But since we're using bad samples, I'm gonna have to do some tweaking. So I'm gonna go through now and find an open hat and a clap and like a shaker loop and some percussion and start filling out this drum loop. So on the last page for the claps, I found this one clap that actually sounded pretty decent. I just used some processing to make it sound better. Then I layered that with this clap, but I also processed that clap. I shortened it and added some EQ. Now let's do the open hat. So I just processed the open hat. This is before the processing, then after. So just adding some EQ and shortening the samples, and I also added a transient designer. It can do a lot to help clean up these samples. And I had this one that was like a shaker, and I just shortened that up and made it really wide. And that's gonna add some width to the hat. Then I have this one that's a pretty bad sample, but I think if I shorten it a lot, it can help add even more attack to the hat. Just helps the drum beat pop out a little bit more. Now let's get a shaker loop. Every time I hear one that could be usable, I'm just gonna drag it in so I don't have to go back to it. These honestly aren't bad samples right here. Maybe that one is. So I just dragged all these shaker loops in. Let's see if any of them sound good. So I put my favorite shaker in the middle of the mix. Then I pan these two to the left and right so it makes the drum beat sound wider. Then I layered this tambourine in there. Actually sounding pretty clean for using such bad samples, but I want to add an arpeggio sound to the breakdown, so let's find a bell. So I'm just going to go bell, and then let's change it to one shot. We made it to the 100th page. This is actually kind of a clean percussion sample. It's not a bell, but maybe I could use that, so I'm just going to throw it in there. So not a lot of great samples in there, but I think I'm going to go with this one. So I sampled that bell and added some effects and turned it into this arpeggio. Just adds a little more texture. Then I just sampled this woodblock sound and turned it into this. And that sounds nice layered with the shakers. I might have figured out something to do with that brass sound too. Now let's work on the build-up. I'm gonna need a snare sample. I'm just gonna do what I've been doing and drag in the samples I think are good, then figure out the rest later. So I ended up taking this snare and making it the top snare. So this EQ really helps clean it up. Then I needed a lower part of the snare that was in the key of the track. So I used this sample for that. Then I just put it in the right pitch and took everything else besides that root note out. So when you put both of them together, you get a full snare. Now let's maybe filter in the drums during the build-up. So I'm gonna copy over some of these drum sounds. Alright, so I just spent some time arranging the project, color coding and renaming everything so it's more organized. So this is what it looks like now. The only things I added was I added some reverse brass hits. So all I did was reverse the main brass. Then to add some suspense at the end of the drop, I added this effect to the reverse. Then I just found these riser effects and crash cymbals on the last page when I typed them both in. Then I mixed everything properly together, and here's the final result. Thank you guys for watching. I'll catch you next time. Peace.